We've talked about Fu Xuan to extensive end. We've seen her in action. We've crafted for her. We've built guides for her. We've done all this stuff right there. So now it's time to look ahead. It's time to look to the future and see what is coming our way. What's going on, YouTube? Ledger here once again, this time at you again with some more Honkai Star Rail. And I wanted to talk about Fu Xuan and Jing Liu and which one is going to be the better pick for you and your account. As we've already known, Fu Xuan has proven her worth. She's proven that she is a top pick for most people's accounts. She is an incredible sustainer. Is she better than Luocha? Well, that's a different discussion. Hint, hint. My answer is yes. But it is a discussion that can be had, right? But this video isn't about who's better, you know? It's a matter of Fu Xuan is good enough to sustain your team solely in 95% of the content of the game. The other 5%, well, that's Swarm Disaster. Swarm Disaster level 5. She can do it, but it is tough. It is tough. I've done it. You know, I've made it to the final boss when it comes to Swarm, and I've been able to get there and do that. But you know, those strong AoE attacks will get you. They'll get you. But I'm going off. I'm going off on a tangent there. The fact of the matter is, if it's MOC, if it's Swarm Disaster, if it's Simulated Universe, if it's anything in the game, Fu Xuan can solo sustain for you and your team. And she does it very well. And the ability to be able to keep your team alive by herself while also buffing them as if she's a Harmony unit is invaluable. It's a great asset to your account, because the fact of the matter is, when you have a unit that can solo sustain for you, it allows your DPS to go crazy. It allows your DPS to deal more damage, because your DPS, I've seen people with some reasonably built DPSs, they're doing pretty good in terms of that, but their team keeps getting smacked around before their DPS can use their full potential. You know, your Zeal is trying to ramp up and everything like that, get her burst out, but all of a sudden, oh no, your Silver Wolf's dead, your Bronya's dead, your whoever else is dead, because you know your sustain just isn't doing the job. And I feel that this is very, very important to account. So if you are lacking in that, then it seems that the decision has to be made where you need to be able to let your DPSs do their thing by sustaining them with a proper sustained unit, like Luocha, like your Par, like Fu Xuan. And also too, when it comes to Fu Xuan, as we've seen, it doesn't take a lot of investment in order to get her to work. My Fu Xuan is walking 8,200 HP. And you know, you can get more. I've seen people push 10,000. You know, I've seen people focus on defense and get their defense up. My defense for her isn't that high. Things like that. I've seen people really get into there and build on her defensive capabilities. As for me, my Fu Xuan, I built a lot of crit rate and crit damage on her. So she's missing out on some of the defense stats. She's missing on some of the effect resistance stats that she wants to be a defensive unit, you know? I just want her to do a little bit of damage because it's just a preference thing, not because it's a meta thing. This comes to show that she's able to do all that. I mean, granted, I do have her signature light cone, of course, but I can argue that her light cone, it can help her survive just as well, because it gives her a shield, it gives her effect resistance. It's not like her defensive capabilities are blown out the water when she has her light cone, you know? It's just that she just helps the team do more damage and so on and so forth with her light cone. Obviously, we know why her light cone is so great. But the fact of the matter is, she doesn't need all that. She can use Landau's Choice. She can use her restore light cone. She can use Day 1 of My New Life. You know, she has options. She has options she can do. It's very easy to build. So most people do have what it takes in order to get her up and going, in order to protect the team properly. It's almost fact at this point, right? We've seen it. So for those people, I do feel that if you do need that sustained unit, if your team is dying, then it's kind of clear what decision you need to make. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this is an easy pick like that. I'm not going to pretend that, you know, you pick Fu Xuan, call it a day, right? Because some people, their accounts might want Jing Liu instead, right? But how do you know the difference? How do you know when it's time to pick her? Well, let's talk a little bit about the Ice Queen herself. Jing Liu, right? Because Jing Liu is coming and she is going to be a force to be reckoned with. When she comes, people are going to be shocked at their mind. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is Dan Heng, the second coming, because she's strong. And I do believe that she is on par with Dan Heng. Some might, when she comes, some might even say that she's stronger. Who knows? We'll see. I do think they're equal, but people are going to be saying that. People are going to be saying she's stronger, and for good reason. She's going to hit hard. She's going to hit like a truck, right? And if your account is an account that needs a DPS, well, you know, look no further. She is an ice destruction unit. As we've already known officially, we've seen the drip marketing. For those who play Hu Yangqing story quests, you guys have seen her in game. She's there to do destruction and her ice damage right there. So that kind of knocks that off right there. So those people who don't have Yangqing or don't like Yangqing, then well, there you go. You know, we have something coming. I compared her to Dan Heng, right? Because the damage she's going to be putting out is pretty similar, right? It's going to be pretty similar to her. Sometimes it might be more depending on the situation. But she's going to be doing that, right? But the difference with her is she's going to be much more SP efficient, right? She's going to be a little bit like Blade. She does use her skill point, but she has a mode that she goes into that enhances her skills. And when her hand skill is active, it does not use SP, right? So that seems like the opposite of Dan Heng, who's using 3 skill points to use his basic attack, right? His enhanced basic attack. It kind of seems crazy that, okay, she's putting out just as much damage as Dan Heng, but she's using 0 skill points in order to do that. That sounds crazy, right? Well, there is a balance to it. Of course, she does have a downtime, so I don't want to sell it as if she's going to be this spectacular great unit that just outclasses Dan Heng in every way. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. But she does have something to stick with that comparison there, because she does have that downtime, but kind of evils things out. But the fact that she uses such little SP skill points, it opens the doors for her, right? And allows her to be able to be used on more flexible teams, right? Now, granted, she uses characters like Ting, Yun, and Pella, 4-star units, which are great, who also work well with Dan Heng too. But then people can start throwing in ideas like using Bronya, using Yukong, using other characters, or a non-E6 Yukong, using other characters that use SP, or let's say if you want to add in an extra defensive unit like Fire MC or Marsh or so on and so forth, you have those options to do it in order to get her working. Because the fact of the matter is, you wanted to use as little skill points as possible with Dan Heng, with her, and you can even use Pella's little E skill instead of always autoing with her, which was all be a great thing too. Because of her being flexible too, that also leads to her being such a free-to-play friendly unit. When I say free-to-play friendly, I'm not just referring to the fact that she can be used with different 4-stars and be more flexible when it comes to her teams, but also the fact that in terms of building her, it's going to be pretty good, because a lot of us are going to be farming that broken kill set, which you should be doing. So you're going to be getting root in the arena, right? So SP efficient when it comes to her planar set, and then when it comes to her other set, which is ice, you know, Wind set is a good set too. So that is a SP efficient place to farm too when it comes to that, right? But in terms of building her, another big, huge thing about her kit is that when she goes into that state of where she uses her hand skill and she's not using any SP points, or that's redundant, SP points, but when she's using her skill points, right, and she's not using her skill points in order to do that, she's also getting an extra 50 crit rate. Now, for those of you who play Genshin, this kind of reminds me of Ayaka, where Ayaka gets a whole bunch of crit rate because of her artifact site, so you can focus on crit damage. She's going to be the same. So it's going to be easier to build her because she's getting so much crit rate. And crit rate is probably one of the hardest things to build up. So you can just focus on stacking that crit damage. If you don't have crit rate on one artifact, then it's okay. You just leveled up, good to go, so on and so forth. She's going to be easier to build in that sense. And in terms of her light cones, she has options, right? Because she's a destruction character that does scale off of attack. So all those attack light cones are going to be good for her. The Store light cone, the Clara light cone, all the different destruction light cones that have all these different things are going to be great for her. Obviously, don't use the one that gives a whole bunch of crit rate, of course, But you have options now. You have options in order to use light cones. You don't necessarily have to get her light cone, even though it's going to be very strong. So she's free to play friendly in that sense, right? So if you're looking for a DPS, she isn't a bad pick whatsoever. Now, I mean, granted, one of the things that she does want, you want to make sure she has, is a very good healer, right? Because she does take HP from the party in order to be able to do that big damage that she does too. So Japard, you can use him, but she's going to be constantly chipping away at the health. So if you use Japard with her, then if the battle becomes too long, then you're going to notice that you're in some trouble, and Japard needs to keep his shield up at all times, right? But I mean, it's still doable. You can do it, but you're going to want to heal her. You know, you can use Bailu. You really want to use Luocha, but if he's limited character, if you don't have him, then you don't have him. So you can use Natasha. You can use Lynx. You can use, even though Lynx, I don't like Lynx giving all the aggro to Jingliu, but you know, you can use Lynx. Lynx can heal right back up, you know? You can do these things, and it's a great thing, right? It's great. Jingliu's advantage is just keep going. And of course, in the future, we'll try and go more into her kit, so I can try and explain if you're solely focused on her and how to prep. So keep an eye out for that video. But just wanted to show like some of the advantages that she does have. So based on this information, you're thinking, all right, well, she sounded pretty good. Which one do I choose? Which way do I go in terms of this? Well, I say, based on the information that you see, if you haven't made a decision yet, based on what I've said about Fu Xuan or about Jing Liu, then I'll try and break it down a little bit more and say, if you look at your account and you have Luocha and you have Japard, then you don't necessarily need Bailu. You can keep yourself alive. Even though Fu Xuan is better than Japard, Japard has proven himself to be good enough, right? So if you have Japard and you have Luocha, you're kind of set and you're kind of good to go, right? You don't necessarily have to do it. If you have Bailu, if you're saying, oh, I have Bailu, you know, Bailu can soul sustain, but it's a little tough for her to do so. So I don't necessarily count Bailu to that extent, right? But if you're there saying, oh, well, my Bailu's doing just fine, well, then go ahead, keep going, you know? But at the end of the day, you know, that is how I view things and how I look at it right there. That if you do have Bailu, then I still think Fu Xuan is worth it to get because how much better of a job that she can do. On the other hand, let's say if you have more than 2 DPSs that you have built that you want to use on your account, then now you don't necessarily have to pull for Jing Liu because you have the damage that you need. You know, you have Sealy, you have Kafka, or you have Blade, you have Jing Yuan, yes, including Jing Yuan too. You have these characters, you have Dan Heng. You have these characters. A lot of people have Dan Heng too. Just you know, he had those sales, so a lot of people have him. If you have these 2 of these characters or more, then Jing Liu, you don't really need her. So you might want to focus on Fu Xuan in that sense, right? If you are playing the Memory of Chaos and you just can't stay alive, you are getting smacked time after time. It's not so much your damage, but it's the fact that you can't stay alive. Then Fu Xuan is going to be there in order to make sure that you can make it through that content so you can get to the next step. But let's say you're staying alive and you're just not getting the damage in order to beat it in enough cycles, then maybe Jing Liu might be the better fit for your account, because that just shows that you aren't putting enough damage and your characters might be built up to a certain amount where you think they should be performing. Then yeah, maybe you might need someone who's going to be able to get some more damage onto your account for you, right? So that's really breaking that down right there. I'm just kind of giving a good little comparison between Jing Liu and Fu Xuan and who you should pick. You know, let me know if that did help out you guys. I'm curious to know which way you guys are going to go in terms of that too. You know, so definitely drop it down in the comments below what you plan on doing. Did you pull for Fu Xuan? Are you still trying to get Fu Xuan? Or is Jing Liu your target this whole time? All right. So I hope that was all helpful. If you like the content, definitely like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can get more content like this. And with that, on to here, Legend out.